Okay, there's that. And here's this. Okay. Just a reminder before we get started, this is week 13. There are 16 weeks in this semester, so there are 3 weeks left after this one. The university policy is that you can be up to 4 weeks late on an assignment, but you lose 10% per week that you're late. And you can be up to 3 days late on a discussion, but you lose 10% per day. Make sure that you take some time to look at the grade book. And if you need to get caught up over the last 4 weeks for the assignments, go ahead and do that. If you need to get caught up on discussions, well, remember the policy is you have 3 days that you can be late. You can also contact me and we can set up a meeting. But at week 13 in the senior level course, we're pretty much going to follow the university policy for the most part here. So let's go ahead and let me do one more thing. I got to add one person here to the attendance. Bonnie, I see you there. Gotcha. All right. So to continue from sorry, I got derailed there. I'm making sure I'm recording. We all know how I have a tendency to forget the record part, but we got it this week. So let me get Zoom out of the way because it likes to be in the way. There's that. All right. We're going to pick up talking about differentiation. How do we handle or manage the differentiation? We started talking about it some on Monday. Let me read you a quote from the textbook. From a systems perspective, power has little to do with strength or command presence or toughness or the position you hold, or even the size and quality of the resources you control. System power is the ability to influence system process, to act in ways that enhance the capacity of the system to survive and develop in its environment, to cope with the danger facing it, and prospect among the opportunities. And so power is different depending on what you're considering. When you are in a position of authority, the leader, if you remember to organizational behavior, you have leadership, power, and authority, and they work in conjunction with one another, and there's different power bases that you can pull from. When you're dealing with systems thinking, with seeing systems, power is quite different. It really relates to how you can alter how that system functions. And you're not going to be able to do that unless you can effectively know and see how that system works, the elements involved, and to understand its ultimate purpose. But being in the in-group and at war with the out-group leads to always seeking the ever-elusive agreement or bargain, which never seems to happen. Now, remember the in-group versus out-group that goes to social identity theory and social exchange theory. The in-group, that is the we, the us. And that's not in a good way because we've excluded people. We've said you're in the them or the others. We've talked about this occurring at the level of the bottoms. This can occur at the level of the tops and at the level of the middles. Even customers and providers can experience this. That in-group versus out-group, we are moving somebody out of inclusion. We've removed them from inclusion safety. We're saying you are not qualified to give your perspective. And some of the reasons we've discussed why that happens is because that person is offering their perspective and it goes against our perspective. And that's a limiting feature we see in many systems. What we should do is say we don't need an us versus them. What we need is we are a group. Give us your perspectives, bring it to the table. Even if we disagree with it, we need to know what it is. And we also have to understand each person's perspective is valid to at least that person. And there are reasons that they have that perspective. And we should seek to find what those reasons are. Now, that's if we want to exercise power within a system in a way that's going to bring about that innovation or that growth or that proper functioning of the system. We cannot strive to change others to fit our predetermined ideologies or plans and expect the system to improve. We're trying to force our self-agenda on the system. That is going to backfire because the system is not one person. It's made up of many elements, which are policies, people, procedures, products, whatever it is we identify as being at the base element level, the elemental level. Just like in chemistry, each molecule is made up of different elements. Okay, same thing in a system. The system is made up of elements that are working together through interconnectedness toward a common shared purpose. However, we can seek the emergent super strategy and find true power by impacting the system's energy. So this energy, first of all, we can identify it through the interconnections between the elements. And we can connect it to how these elements are fulfilling the purpose of that system. That is the energy. Now we can work with that energy and be able to move the system forward, or we work against that energy. And the quickest way to work against that energy is to try to superimpose a small set of perspectives or plans, agendas into that system and subject that system to being limited to just those perspectives or just those agendas. You're not going to become innovative. You're not going to have creativity, and you're not going to have a system that is psychologically safe. Let's look at that bottom zone. Group change in the bottom zone. Oshry said to take the motto, in diversity, there is strength. But we usually hear the opposite. In unity, there is strength. So why the difference? See, in unity, there is strength. We actually push people into the out group. We push people into the category of being the them or the others. We are limiting them from sharing their perspective. We're causing them to self-censor. We've imprisoned them metaphorically. We've punished them metaphorically or maybe even literally in some cases. And we now don't have a diverse set of perspectives to draw from. We, at that point, are trying to promote homogeneity. While there is some benefit to a type of homogeneity, it is that differentiation that brings diversity that allows us to have multiple perspectives. So we can encourage individualism, which can help others to feel like they are visible and welcome in the bottom zone. Instead of trying to get everybody into groupthink, which also means that they're stuck in an echo chamber. The only things they're hearing are things that conform to the bottom group's thought process, their agenda, their plan, their perspective. We want to stop that. We want to encourage individualism. We want people to feel free and safe to contribute their ideas, their perspectives. We can also encourage differentiation. So we want people to be individuals, but by encouraging differentiation, now we're encouraging each element, each person to be their own individual. And that makes that differentiation, and that can help the group to see more opportunities, even those that might appear contradictory. When you are entering into creativity to go towards innovation, you need to explore even the absurd. You take what's normally done and you say, okay, that's the status quo. What changes could be made? What other ways can we approach this? Even the absurd ones. You put them on the table and you analyze them, you evaluate them, you study them, and you look for the little bits and pieces within even the absurd ideas that help drive you towards a sustainable change. While the overall idea might be absurd, there might be something in the process or in the structure that you could use ultimately. When I was leading the recon team, the intelligence team in the Army as a sergeant, all my soldiers from the lowest private on up were able to contribute their ideas. It didn't mean I took their whole idea. I might take one element of their idea, one component, one aspect of their idea, and use that. But by doing that, now we built something up that's based on everybody's perspective. We built something up that encourages organizational citizenship behaviors. We made people feel a sense of ownership. That is encouraging individuals, encouraging differentiation while being focused on the group's or the system's ultimate purpose as well. Now, remember that Clark discussed that challenging the status quo in psychological safety needs to be encouraged. You see, that's where we create that moment of chaos. That's where we create those moments of, what did he call them? We talked about it Monday, mutant moments. That's where we create those. And that's what the system needs. The system needs to be challenged to turn away from the status quo, to allow the creativity, even the absurd, and then find what works. And you have a new idea, a new policy, a new product, a new process that's innovative. It hasn't been done before in that system. It's unique, it's new, it's different. And that's exactly what happens when we propel technology forward. That's exactly how we propel organizations forward. Mistakes. We might see the absurd idea as a mistake, but in those mistakes, we find the slivers of truth that we need that will build something strong. And lastly, we can integrate regularly, which is the natural byproduct of differentiation. Now, this integration, it is both a physical integration. So we have individuals with different perspectives coming together and interrelating together. That interconnectedness, that communication, that's integration. We need that regularly in the system. Also, the second part of integration, excuse me, is to take these slivers of truth that we find in different perspectives of the individuals and bring those into the innovation process and adopt those into there, because now we're integrating bits and pieces of these different ideas and making, I don't know if you ever have had a goulash. It's kind of like some of everything in a pot that's cooked, and they're usually really good. Well, it's a little of this, a little of that, a little of this. You might not eat leftovers. You can make a goulash out of leftovers, and they can turn out to be magnificent creations. You may never be able to recreate it because in the moment when you're pulling stuff out of your fridge from the leftovers, the quantities, the amounts, the seasonings, everything is going to be different every time. And so your goulash of innovation is going to be kind of exciting. It's new, it's different every single time. Because you don't want to go and say, we need to go through innovation again and come up with the same exact thing again. That would be ridiculous. That's not innovation. That's returning to another form of status quo. So we need to avoid that. But we do this through integrating regularly. Now, Slime, I'm going to read here from Oshry. Slime molds do it all the time in their life cycle. At first, they are single amoebocytes, swimming around, eating bacteria, aloof from each other, voting straight Republican. Then a bell sounds, and a chrysin, that's a hard word to pronounce sometimes. A chrysin is released by special cells toward which the others converge in stellate ranks. Touch, fuse together, and construct the slug. Solid as a trout, a splendid stalk is raised with a fruiting body on top, and out of this comes the next generation of amoebocytes, ready to swim across the same moist ground, solitary and ambitious. What Oshry is pointing out here, this actually occurs in nature. A slime mold turns into slugs. And this is through the process where they go through being individuals and different. And then they begin to coalesce in a form of homogenization. And then they develop the slug, something that literally emerges from the slime mold. It wasn't slime mold at the end. At the beginning, it was. At the end, it's a slug. You don't think of slugs coming from slime molds, but this slug does. Okay, and then the stalk comes off of the slug, and these amoebocytes are released. And it starts the process all over again. That is such a beautiful analogy for bringing together different perspectives, converging them all together into an innovative idea. That innovative idea then breeds a whole new round of individualization, differentiation, leading to homogenization and a new innovation. So if you have a system and you want that system to be innovative on a regular basis, it takes this kind of ebb and flow between people or individuals. You each got your perspectives. You bring them forward. We discuss them, even the absurd. We coalesce the good parts. Then we have something that emerges, a new innovative idea. And then we repeat the process again. And we wind up with another innovation. So individuation and integration. You can read this in the textbook, and I highly recommend that you do. This was originally written by Lewis Thomas. And it's once again, a beautiful analogy about what we're talking about. And this is how many people act in the systems and in their particular zone. Because remember, you're part in a system, but you're in a zone in that system, a bottom, a middle, a top, an end, a customer, a middle, whatever. You're in a section, a zone. Oshry wrote, we humans individuate and integrate. We add a little extra to it. We attach values to these processes. We believe in them. They are the foundations of our organizations. We build political parties. We form governments. We even go to war around these processes. I thought there might be a little bit more, but there wasn't. Okay, so here we're looking at the benefits of individuation. That is, instead of coming together as a group, we pull back so that we can develop our own perspective. We obtain our perspective, we refine it, we come back into the group, we present our perspective. The group then integrates part of it, maybe all of it, but usually at least part, into the group's perspective. Because remember, reality is something that we all see, but what we call reality is a consensus of what we see. It's not the totality of what we see. In order to get the totality, we've got to speak to each and every person in that system and understand their perspective and the unique ways they see things. And that's very essential. So we individuate and we integrate. Now, if that's all we do is pull back and then integrate, we have a problem because we've also got to have that differentiation. We've got to have those aspects come into play. Otherwise, we're not going to be balanced. We're going to be lopsided, as we're going to see. Okay, so we're going to compare what the slug part of the system does and what the amoebocyte system does. So first, we've got the amoebocytes. Remember, they're slime mold. Then they turn into slugs. So we're going to start at the end. I know it seems weird. It's how Oshry put it, and we're going to go that way. The slugs, they see the system coming first. There's loyalty and patriotism. They align with the system's mission. They see the amoebocytes as being completely selfish. The amoebocytes produce chaos. The amoebocytes will destroy our system. The amoebocytes threaten traditional values. We must bring amoebocytes into line or get rid of them. Competition alienates amoebocytes from one another. It destroys their system. So that's what the slug is saying and saying. The amoebocytes on the other side, they say the individual comes first. We have to have freedom. Do your own thing. I thought the sentence was different. Sorry. Slugs are oppressive. Slugs stifle creativity. A slug system isn't worth living in. Slugs cling to the past. We must get the slugs off our backs, and competition makes us great. So we have two opposing ideas. Now, this, once again, is an analogy here, but think about this. We as human beings, we often are either in the slug system or in the amoebocyte system. Yet, for a system to truly flourish, you need to have both. You have time periods where that system is more of a slug. You have other time periods where it's more of an amoebocyte. It's the ebb and that flow. Watch the waves on a lake or in the ocean. They flow. Throw a twig, a dry twig on there, and watch what happens. Does it just stay in one spot? No, it bows up and down and starts moving across the lake with the waves. So when the wave is down, that might be the slug system. When the wave is up, that's the amoebocyte system. It takes both actions in a system to move and propel innovation forward. Oshry gave the above table that we discussed to further explain the dangers of individuation and integration. Remember, both are beneficial, but when that's all we do is either individuate or integrate, we have a problem. You see that it does not matter which side you're on, the other side becomes the enemy. So we do this in many ways as human beings. If you don't have this perspective, you're wrong. The way I look at it is I got my perspectives, but I'm open to learning about yours. And when I learn about your perspectives, I want you to explain to me how you arrived to these conclusions. What evidence, what data did you use? I want to be privy to it. Now, by the time we finish discussing, I will have an understanding of your perspective. I may or may not agree with your perspective, but I see it as being valid to you. And because it's valid to you, it is a piece of reality that I want to understand so I can better understand the big picture. So he breaks it down into individuating males and integrating females. Individuating males are independent, strong. And now he uses male and female here because people tend to think that males are more one way and females are more another way. Those are stereotypes. I don't really agree with that, but he uses this for the analogy. So individuating, you have independent, strong. We do what needs to be done. The assertive actions. The integrating females constrain us. We are rational, independent, objective. You avoid conflict. Male individuation is what made our country great. Now, these are things that the individuators in the system might say. Where the integrators, the integrating females might say, we believe in connecting. We desire nurturing. We do what needs to be done, the maintenance of actions. Individuating males disregard or abandon us. You are cold, detached, unfeeling. You dominate the conversation. Male individuation is what led to colonialism, imperialism, war, and the oppression of women, people of color, and Native Americans. Now, both viewpoints are valid. Don't get me wrong, both viewpoints are valid, but that's not the real big picture of reality. The big picture of reality is when the two come together and have that interconnectedness that we keep talking about. Each element is going to be a little different. One may be more individuating. One might be more integrating. One is not right and one is not wrong. They both are valid and they need to be applied together in the system for that system to flourish. Oshry pointed out that each system approach, individuation and integration is indispensable. We need them both. Just like in order for the slime mold and the slugs to exist, they have to have both phases, the slime mold phase and the slug phase. With one of those phases gone, that species would no longer exist. Oshry wrote, so long as we politicize individuation and integration, it's impossible to create systems that recognize the contributions and limitations of both processes. So while both are valid, they both have their limits. They both got things that they get wrong, but they've got things they get right. And when the two come together, they balance each other out. Now let's turn our view to differentiation and homogenization. Homogenization is about drawing together, bringing together. He wrote in the Ode to Homogenization in a way that informed us that differentiation is about endless possibilities, systems, parts, specializing, becoming different from one another. Yet he further wrote, that is differentiation, the exploration of possibilities, not truths, just simply possibilities. When you go into the process of turning away from the status quo, you don't have the truth, the answer, the way, the process yet, but you're exploring things. Mistakes will be made. You go to even the absurd and you find the slivers of truth that work and extract those and retain those. Next, Oshry wrote, homogenization is about commonality, replaceability. It's about system parts remaining similar to one another. We drink milk. We buy at the store. Most milk that we buy at the store has been homogenized, made similar. It goes through a process. It's so that we can process it easier. Some people can't, and that's fine, but that's typically why it's done. Oshry advocates that balance be applied here. Again, it's about balance. Differentiation, homogenization. Both are good. Differentiation is everybody's different. Homogenization is everybody's the same. We need them both in balance. He wrote, wherever there is differentiation, we would do well to attend to homogenization. So if we see too much differentiation in a system, add some homogenization there. He further noted that it is not a majority or minority problem. It is about accessing resources. This is all about balance and acceptance. So if we have too much homogenization, we add some differentiation into the system. We need to bring it back down to that balanced zone. The middle is always the balance point. It's the fulcrum. But the middle is not necessarily a single spot. It's a zone. Think of if you have a piece of wood, 100 inches long. You could go straight to the 50-inch point and say, this is the middle. And technically, yes, you're right. But when we look at the middle as a zone, it's between the 40-inch mark and the 60-inch mark. That's 20 whole inches of space. That's the middle zone. So to bring a system towards the middle isn't to bring the system to a specific spot, but to a zone. So those who are more individualistic can come in. Those that are more about the differentiation can come in on the other side. And while they're both just getting to the middle zone, they're in the middle and they're going to work together more effectively. In a relationship, I don't think I need to get to where my partner is at, and I don't think she needs to get to where I'm at. We just need to get to the middle zone so we don't give up too much of our own self, but we become a unit. We're able to work together. Now we look at the preserver and protector. We have to consider these categories, preserve and protect, and allower and adapters, and we need to see how they interact within a dominant system. Now, a dominant system includes those trying to guard their way of doing things, their view, their worldview. That is typically the part of the system that says this is who we are, this is what we're doing, we're not going to change. We are us. We're the in group. If you're not part of us, then you're the others, you're in the out group. Okay. The other part here, the others, these are the individuals who are different from the dominants within that system. If I'm in a room with people that got hair on their head, and you can clearly see I do not, I would be the other. They might think that combing your hair a certain way and using certain products, that's the only way to live. And for them, they're right. But I'm the other. I don't have hair. For me, the only way I live is I use a razor and a washcloth. I don't use a brush, I use a washcloth. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're looking at in-group versus out-group, dominant versus other. And while Oshri does turn to the greater societal system and the political system, I want you to think about systems in general, okay? As Oshri describes this is the others, the individuals. This is the out-group, LGBTQ+, foreigners, minority group individuals, the disabled, people who are not in the majority group. So if you're not in the majority group, whatever that might be, you are indeed in the other group. Now we got to look at the preserver and protector. In the dominants and others, Oshri pointed out that when considering a dominant individual, there is a tension between the preserver/protector and the allower/adapter. The preserver/protectors are a force for keeping the others out, and the allowers/adapters are a force for bringing the others in. These two groups or types are in a state of conflict with each other in that system. The preserver and protector is we're going to maintain the status quo. The allower and adapter are we're going to welcome in other people just simply based on the fact that they're humans. This tension arises. Agendas come into play. Viewpoints, perspectives, worldviews, they all come into play. Do we want everybody to think just like us, or do we want people to think for themselves? The preserver and protector, we're going to talk a little bit more here about the allowers, adapters, preserver, protectors. The allowers and adapters are a force for entering the culture of the dominants. We bring in the others. We accept them in. We introduce them into the dominant culture. But the allower/adapters and the preserver protectors are in conflict with each other over how to relate to the dominant culture. So how do we see the dominant culture in the system? Are we trying to protect it? Or are we trying to adapt it and bring other people in? Well, let us know what side of the conflict we're on, because there is a conflict at play. And I need to, hold on one second, sports fans, just give me one moment. I got to take care of something before the problem gets worse here. I got a problem. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I apologize. I just moved up here to Michigan a couple months ago, as you know. Y'all got some funky spiders. I mean, Texas has got some funky spiders too, even tarantulas and stuff. But I don't like spiders. They have multiple eyes, up to 8 eyes, and they have 8 legs. I don't trust spiders. I don't know what way they're going. I don't know what they're looking at. Don't know what they're thinking. There was a big, ugly spider on the wall right across from me. All I could think of is he's going to get into hiding, and I'm never going to find him again to kill him. So I had to take care of that. So sorry, my own little phobia kind of took over. I apologize. So we were getting ready to go to the next slide. Let's move over to that. Okay, others are not like the rest of the group. Remember, they're on the outside. They're not like the dominants. And they tend to feel constrained, confused, shaky, not knowing the rules of the dominant culture, all of which reinforces the dominant stereotype of the others. It reinforces the dominant's efforts to preserve their culture. Once again, we hear this and we think of the culture at large within a nation or a geographic region. But we're learning systems thinking to understand systems all the way from the smallest of systems to the largest. So these concepts apply even if it's just a friend group with 5 people. Okay, there will be a dominant culture. There will be the others. There will be that tension, even in a very small system. So it's important that you understand this. So the best option is the challenge of creating a robust system, and it is the challenge that demands awareness and choice. That robust system, that awareness and choice, that's how we're going to unite the dominants and the others. That's how we're going to unite the preserver and protector of the system and the allowers and adapters of that system. This is how we, as leaders, can unite the factions within a system. Oshry further wrote, "It is a system in which members develop and express their uniqueness, which is individuation, and at the same time are team players, integration." Notice the balance. You're unique in that system. That's individuation. But you're a team player. That's integration. Oshry is pointing out these are both okay as long as they're in balance. It is a system that welcomes and elaborates variety, meaning differentiation, while working on commonality, homogenization. So in the system, we bring in everyone's perspective. We see their perspective as valid to them. We learn about their perspective. We find the slices that are beneficial to the system at large. We adopt those in. So we celebrate the differences. But then we bring everybody into a place of being similar by adopting different parts from each person's perspective. This is part of that using chaotic moments to push against the status quo, to challenge the status quo, to enter into something that's new and innovative. This is that very moment, that process where this is occurring. Some people find it uncomfortable to be there because their own ideas and perceptions are being challenged. Don't take it personally. You see, I'm comfortable with people that hold different views than I do. I'm perfectly fine with it. It doesn't endanger me at all. When I talk to people, like my best friend, he is pretty much my complete opposite. We don't judge each other. We accept the fact that each other thinks differently. We have open and honest conversations about why we perceive things the way we do, why we believe certain things. We present the information that led us to that conclusion. At the end of the day, I get to leave out of there smarter because now I can see reality from a different point of view, from a different person's perspective. And they can also, from my perspective. I brought in my view that way. I brought in my worldview that way. Now, does it change me? Maybe it does sometimes. Maybe it doesn't most of the time. But I'm open to it. I learn more. I hope that you can see that in a healthy system, you need both individuation and integration. You need differentiation and homogenization. These are things that too many times in a system will keep people apart. But we can actually cause change in that system so that these people that have been kept apart can now interconnect as elements in that system, retaining their individuality, but coming together as a common collective of people who all think different things and perceive different things. Imagine the creativity. Imagine the innovation that can come from such a system. This type of system welcomes others. They're not threatened by the others. It does not stigmatize the individuals or the integrators. You're an integrator, you're an individual, no problem. We work in harmony, in concert with each other. If you've ever listened to a band playing music, a symphony, an orchestra, anything like that, you don't have everybody playing only one instrument, meaning you don't have 17 people up there all playing the trumpet. You have people playing the trumpet, playing the violin, the piccolo, the flute, the drums, this instrument, the saxophone, the trombone. All these different instruments come together and create this beautiful harmony, this melody that would not exist if everybody on that stage were all playing the same instrument. And not only are they playing different instruments, but they're playing different parts of the music. Some do the melody, some do the harmony, some do the bass line, some do this, some do that. By themselves, it may not sound like much, but together it creates Beethoven's Fifth, Mozart's The Magic Flute, Guns N' Roses' Paradise City, name it. It's all kinds of individuals coming together, working together. Neither does this system stigmatize the differentiators or the homogenizers, because both are needed. A truly vibrant system does not expel people because you're not like the dominant group. When the dominant group fully understands the beauty, the innovation, the possibilities that can come out of bringing everybody together, yet maintaining individualism, the sky is the limit. The members of this type of system can see their own strengths while acknowledging the strengths of other members. The preserver/protector strengthen the system. The allower/adapter bring their ability to accept change into the system. So you got people that are there protecting the system, those that are allowing others to come in and adapting the system. And when they work in concert together, you can have a stable system that grows. The stability is brought in through the preserver protectors. The growth is brought out through the allower adapters. So ask yourself, what kind of system do you want if you're the leader of a system? Do you want one that's stuck in a way of doing things, or do you want one that's going to grow, be vibrant, alive, innovative, creative? We have another table from OSHRI here. We see a level of a system, the pitfall, and what they need to work on. At the top, the pitfall is over-differentiated. That causes the turf wars. What needs to be worked on is they need to work on integration and homogenization to overcome that difficulty. In the middle zone, you find over-individuated. They feel alienated. What do they need to work on? Integrating. And at the bottom level, you find over-integrated. That leads to groupthink, echo chamber, and the like. What do they need? They need to work on individuation and differentiation. The dominant/other system, because you have the dominant system and then you have the others in their own system, the other system. The pitfall is over-integrated, over-homogenized, over-preserved, protected. You find an enormous amount of stability. Stability is good until it's in excess. When you have too much stability, you have no growth, no innovation. What do they need to work on? Individuation, differentiation. You need to bring that allow/adapt, that change, that growth into the picture to balance out the stability. I want to point out right now, no matter what system you want to apply this to. Balance will always be essential. Without balance, the system will suffocate from too much stability, and it will fizzle out. It'll be too split, too factionated if there's too much differentiation. You need both aspects in a system for it to be healthy. Today's lecture isn't very long, but I'm going to tell you right now, at this stage in the class, these lectures are not easy because it may challenge what we think about systems, about society, about ourselves. I want you to have this left in your mind. Balance is the key. Does anybody in class here today have any questions for me?
I don't.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I see a message in the chat. Let me pull it up. Okay, thank you, Jacob. Bonnie, Marianne, any questions, anyone?
I don't have any.
Okay, Maripaz, any questions? Well, that was Maripaz. Sorry about that.
No, no questions.
Okay. If you do, feel free to send me an email. Sometimes just talking through things or getting a different analogy can help. So let me know if you have any, if you need any help with any of this, understanding it. That's what I'm here for. I want to thank each of you for coming to class today. And those that have not come to class but are watching the video, thank you for watching the video, and get a hold of me if you got questions as well, please. All right, I thank you very much. I'm going to release the class. I'm going to ask for Ms. Marapaz, please stay and talk to me for a minute after everyone leaves.
Yep.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Give me 1 second. Let me stop the recording.